The prophecy and the unconventional path. In the heart of a vast and ancient village, nestled between rolling hills and a mighty river, lived a young woman named Zuina. She was known for her intelligence, beauty, and unwavering spirit, qualities that made her both admired and feared. Yet, despite her many gifts, she sought something greater than herself, a purpose beyond the confines of tradition. One evening, under the glow of a silver moon, Zuina visited Maisha, the revered village oracle. The old woman, draped in layers of woven cloth and adorned with beads of wisdom, peered into the swirling embers of a sacred fire. Her voice, aged yet commanding, spoke a prophecy that sent chills through Zuina's spine. The father of your child will rise as the greatest leader this village has ever known. He will bring wealth where there was scarcity, peace where there was strife. But fate does not walk a straight path, your choices will shape the destiny of generations. The weight of these words pressed upon Zuina's soul. She understood that if the future of her people depended on the man who fathered her child, she could not leave that choice to mere chance. Determined to fulfill the prophecy, Zuina chose an unconventional path, one that defied tradition, challenged norms, and invited controversy. She would not bind herself to a single suitor but instead walk among the men of the village, seeking the one whose spirit, strength, and wisdom could forge a powerful future. Whispers turned to gasps as her intentions became known. The village elders, bound by age-old customs, were outraged. Families muttered disapproval. Warriors, some intrigued and others angered, watched her every move. The women, torn between admiration and disbelief, debated what it meant for one of their own to take such bold steps. Gossip spread like wildfire, but Zuina remained steadfast. In her heart, she knew that the prophecy was not just about her, it was about the future of their people. And for that, she was willing to defy the world. A village divided. The village, once united by shared traditions and ancestral wisdom, now stood on the edge of turmoil. Zuina's actions had sown a deep divide. Some saw her as a vessel of destiny, carrying the hope of a prosperous future, while others called her reckless, a woman who had abandoned the sacred ways of her people. Among those watching in silence was Jabari, Zuina's childhood friend. He had always admired her fiery spirit, but now, a painful longing burned within him. He had never spoken of his feelings, believing that one day, fate would bring them together. Yet as he watched her walk this path, seeking something greater than love, greater than any one man, he felt powerless. His heart belonged to her, but he feared she no longer belonged to anyone. As the months passed, Zuina's belly grew, and so did the unrest within the village. It started as whispers. Mothers wondering if their sons were the ones chosen by fate. Then came the arguments, fathers insisting that their bloodline must carry the prophecy. Warriors exchanged tense glances, and even brothers turned against each other. The once harmonious village was now fractured, split between those who believed in Zuina's vision and those who saw only disgrace. With tensions mounting, the village elders summoned everyone to gather beneath the sacred baobab tree, a towering giant whose roots ran as deep as their history. The elders, wrapped in ceremonial robes, sat in a circle, their weathered faces marked by the wisdom of time. The prophecy speaks of a leader who will bring wealth and peace, one elder declared. But chaos will not be the price we pay. This child is of the village, and we must decide what is to be done. Silence followed, thick and suffocating. All eyes turned to Zuina, the woman who had defied tradition, standing at the heart of a storm she had unknowingly created. Would she surrender to the will of the elders? Or would she continue on the path the oracle had set before her? The birth of a future king. For months, the village buzzed with anticipation, speculation, and quiet tension. The mystery surrounding Zuina's unborn child had become more than gossip, it was now the heartbeat of the entire community. Some saw the baby as a symbol of hope, a vessel of destiny, while others saw only disgrace and disruption. When the night of labor finally arrived, the village fell into an eerie silence. The women gathered in Zuina's hut, their hushed prayers blending with the cries of the wind. The midwives, seasoned by years of experience, worked diligently as Zuina endured wave after wave of pain, her body trembling with the weight of bringing forth a future. Then, just as the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, a cry pierced the air, not of pain, but of new life. Zuina had given birth to a strong and healthy baby boy. She held him close, his small fingers curling around hers with surprising strength. His skin was dark as the rich earth, his eyes deep pools of wisdom untold. In that moment, she felt the magnitude of what she had done, not just for herself, but for the entire village. She named him Kiano, meaning destiny, celebration and chaos. For a brief, beautiful moment, joy washed over the village like a cleansing rain. Drums echoed through the hills, children danced in circles, and the elderly whispered blessings under their breath. Even those who had once scorned Zuina found themselves caught up in the infectious jubilation. But peace was fleeting. As the celebrations roared on, an uncomfortable truth loomed in the shadows: who was Kiano's father? The question, once murmured in corners, now exploded into full-blown accusations. Warriors from different clans stepped forward, each claiming the child as their own. Families, eager to attach their bloodline to the prophecy, began to argue fiercely. Friendships shattered. Brothers turned on one another. The air grew thick with the heat of male pride, and soon, weapons were drawn. "This child belongs to my clan," one warrior roared, gripping the hilt of his spear. "Lies. His strength is ours. He carries our ancestors in his veins," another bellowed. What began as a battle of words teetered on the edge of full-scale bloodshed. Warriors from rival clans squared off, their muscles tense with unspoken violence. The sacred ground that once symbolized unity now became a battlefield of shattered traditions. The elders' verdict. Recognizing the perilous state of the village, the elders intervened. The oldest among them, a man called Bona, who had witnessed generations rise and fall, stood beneath the sacred baobab tree. His voice, cracked with age but firm with authority, silenced the warring clans. "Enough." The village froze. "This child is not a prize to be fought over. He is the prophecy made flesh. If you wish to claim him, then let destiny decide. The gods will not be swayed by words or violence. They demand proof." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "And how will we know the truth?" a warrior challenged. Bona's eyes glowed with the weight of history. "Through a test of faith, strength, and wisdom. Only he who passes will be deemed worthy to stand as the father of Kiano." A hush fell over the village as the implications settled in. The battle for Kiano's lineage had begun, not with spears, but with a test that would determine more than just paternity. It would reveal the true future of the village. And in the center of it all stood Zuina, holding her child, knowing that this was only the beginning. The test of truth. As the sun dipped beyond the horizon, casting an amber glow over the village, the elders stood gathered beneath the sacred baobab tree. The villagers had assembled, their faces shadowed with anticipation, tension, and curiosity. A verdict had to be reached, but it could not be chosen by mere men, it would be decided by the gods themselves. Maisha, the revered village oracle, stepped forward, leaning on her staff carved with ancient symbols. Her eyes, clouded with wisdom and time, swept over the restless crowd. "The child of prophecy must have a father, but no man here can claim him by mere words. The gods have watched, and they will reveal the truth. We shall perform the test of truth." A murmur of awe and fear rippled through the village. The test of truth was a ritual as old as their ancestors, a sacred trial meant to separate deception from destiny. The sacred trial. At the center of the gathering, a great stone altar had been erected, its surface dusted with sacred herbs and inscribed with markings of the old language. A large bonfire burned beside it, the flames twisting and dancing as though they, too, anticipated the coming revelation. Maisha turned to the warriors, those who had stepped forward to claim Kiano as their own. Each of you who believes himself to be the father of this child will present an offering. But know this, your wealth and strength mean nothing here. The gods will choose not by gold or power, but by the purity of your heart. One by one, the men came forward. The first man, a wealthy trader, stepped up confidently. He placed a bag of gold nuggets onto the altar, its brilliance shimmering in the firelight. Let the child grow in wealth, he proclaimed. The villagers gasped in admiration, but the oracle remained silent. The flames flickered, unmoved. The second man, a warrior of high renown, approached. He laid down the horn of a mighty bull, a symbol of strength and protection. Let him be fierce like his father, he declared. Yet, the fire merely crackled, no sign came. The third man, a nobleman's son, presented a rare white dove, an emblem of peace and leadership. He set it free, watching as it soared into the sky. The crowd murmured, impressed by the gesture. But the wind remained still. More men came forward, each offering livestock, weapons, fine cloths, and rare jewels, each confident in their worth. And yet, with every offering, the gods gave no sign. As the night stretched on, an uneasy silence grew. Had the gods refused them all? Had Zuwina's path been in vain? Then, Jabari stepped forward. Unlike the others, he carried no gold, no livestock, no grand display of power. Instead, in his hands, he held something small, something humble, a wooden carving. The villagers squinted in the dim light, whispering among themselves. Was this a joke? A mere toy? But as Jabari placed it on the altar, the oracle's eyes widened. The carving was of a mother holding her child. The details were carefully etched, the tenderness of the mother's embrace, the tiny fingers curled against her chest. Every groove spoke of devotion, protection, and love. Jabari took a breath. I have nothing to offer but my heart. If Kiano is mine, then let him be raised in love, not wealth or strength alone. The gods respond. For a moment, all was still. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. Then, a great wind arose. It howled through the trees, sending the flames of the bonfire leaping toward the sky. The sacred baobab tree shuddered, its leaves rustling like whispered voices from the beyond. The villagers shielded their eyes as a gust of air swirled around the altar, lifting the tiny carving into the air before it settled gently into Maisha's open hands. The oracle's lips trembled as she raised her voice. The gods have spoken. The true father of Kiano is Jabari. A stunned silence fell over the village. Then, like thunder rolling over the plains, a cheer erupted. Some rejoiced, some wept, and others simply stood in awe. Jabari staggered, his heart pounding. He had loved Zuwina in silence for so long, never daring to believe he could be part of her destiny. But now, fate had chosen him. Zuwina, standing at the edge of the crowd, felt tears slip down her cheeks. She had sought the strongest man, the wealthiest man, the best future for her son. But in the end, it was love that the gods had chosen. She stepped forward, placing Kiano in Jabari's arms. The baby stirred, tiny fingers reaching out. And as the wind settled and the fire dimmed, the village knew this was the beginning of a new era. A future king had been born. And with him, a father worthy of raising him. Redemption and realization. The village stood frozen in stunned silence. Jabari. Of all the men, warriors, noble sons, and traders, it was Jabari, the quiet childhood friend of Zuwina, who had been chosen by the gods. Whispers rippled through the crowd like the wind before a storm. How can this be? One of the warriors muttered, his arms crossed tightly. The gods must have made a mistake, scoffed a wealthy merchant, his fingers tightening around the gold he had so proudly offered. Even Zuina herself was speechless. She had spent so long searching for the strongest and wealthiest suitor, believing that only a man of great power could shape their son into a leader. And yet, she had overlooked the one man who had always been there, who had always loved her in silence. She looked at Jabari, who now held Keanu in his arms. There was no arrogance in his posture, no smug triumph, only awe, disbelief, and the overwhelming weight of what had just been placed upon his shoulders. The other men, however, were not ready to accept defeat. A jealous rival rises. From the back of the gathering, a deep voice cut through the tension like a blade. I refuse to accept this. All eyes turned toward Teferi, a fearsome warrior, broad-shouldered and hardened by battle. He was one of the strongest men in the village, known for his cunning in war and his unrelenting ambition. Teferi stepped forward, his dark eyes burning with defiance. What proof do we have that this test was truly just? A wooden carving. A gust of wind. We are to believe that a man with no wealth, no power, no battle scars is meant to raise the future king. Murmurs of agreement spread among those who had also doubted the outcome. Zuina's heart pounded. She knew the traditions, knew that a challenge made in public could not be ignored. Teferi turned to the elders, standing beneath the sacred baobab tree. Let him prove himself, he demanded. If he is truly worthy, let him undergo the final test, the trial of the heart. The village elders exchanged glances, their faces unreadable. Then, Maisha, the oracle, stepped forward, her staff thudding against the earth as she spoke. The gods have chosen, and yet doubt lingers in your hearts. Very well. The trial of the heart shall be conducted at dawn. If Jabari is truly the one, he will prove it not with gold, nor with strength, but with the depth of his love and the purity of his spirit. The trial of the heart. At sunrise, the village gathered once more, their breath misting in the crisp morning air. A hush fell over them as the trial was revealed. Jabari would have to walk across the ember path. It was a sacred test, one that had not been performed in decades. A stretch of land was covered with burning embers, glowing red and angry, their heat warping the air above them. The test was simple in design but brutal in execution. Only a man with unwavering purpose and love could walk across the fire barefoot without faltering. If Jabari completed the walk without crying out, without hesitation, he would prove his devotion. If he failed, he would be deemed unworthy, and another man would be chosen to raise Keanu. The village held its breath. Jabari stepped forward, his gaze steady. He looked at Zuina, the woman he had loved in silence for years. He looked at Keanu, the child he had only just been given the right to call his own. Then, without a word, he stepped onto the embers. A walk through fire. The heat licked at his feet like an unforgiving beast. Blisters formed instantly, the pain searing up his legs. Sweat dripped from his brow, but he did not cry out. Step by step, he walked, his vision blurring, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Every fiber of his body screamed for him to stop, but he pressed forward, driven not by pride, not by competition, but by love. Halfway across, he stumbled. A gasp ran through the crowd. Teferi smacked, arms crossed. He will not make it. But Jabari caught himself. He clenched his fist, gritted his teeth, and forced himself upright. His mind held only one thought. For Keanu. For Zuina. For love. With a final, agonizing step, he reached the other side. The village bows to their future king's father. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, the oracle raised her hands. It is done. The villagers erupted into cheers. Even those who had doubted him now bowed their heads, humbled by what they had witnessed. Teferi, his expression unreadable, turned on his heel and walked away, defeated. Zuwina rushed forward, tears streaming down her face. For so long, she had searched for the man who could shape the future of her child, only to realize that he had been beside her all along. She took Jabari's hands in hers, his palms burned and trembling. "Forgive me," she whispered. "I was blind." Jabari smiled through the pain. "You see me now." A prophecy fulfilled. That evening, under the light of 1,000 stars, the elders declared Jabari and Zuwina as one. Kiano, the child of prophecy, would not only inherit the wisdom of the gods but the love and devotion of a man who had proven himself beyond doubt. And so, the village, once divided, stood united once more. The gods had spoken. A future king had been chosen. And his father had walked through fire to claim him. The marriage that changed everything. The embers had long since cooled, but the memory of Jabari's trial remained etched in the minds of every villager. He had walked through fire, unflinching, unwavering, all for love. That night, as the village drums echoed through the moonlit sky, a new chapter in their history began. A love finally realized. Zuwina stood before Jabari, her heart pounding. She had spent so long seeking a man of wealth, of strength, of noble blood, believing that power alone could shape her son's destiny. But now she saw the truth. Power was not in gold or warriors. Power was in love, in resilience, in the quiet strength of a man who would endure any trial for those he loved. Jabari, his feet still bandaged from his walk across the ember path, stood before the village elders. Despite his pain, he carried himself with the quiet dignity of a man who had already proven himself beyond measure. Zuwina stepped forward, her voice strong but filled with emotion. "Jabari, I was blind to what truly mattered. I see you now. Not as the boy I once knew, but as the man I should have chosen from the beginning." A harsh silence fell over the crowd. She took his hand, the same hands that had cradled Kiano, that had carved the wooden offering, that had braved fire. "If you will have me," she said, "I will be your wife." The villagers gasped, then erupted into cheers. Jabari, ever humble, simply smiled. "You were never mine to take, Zuwina. Only yours to give. And I will always cherish what is given freely." The village elders blessed their union that very night. Under the sacred baobab tree, Zuwina and Jabari were bound by tradition, by destiny, and by the love that had overcome every trial. A village united. With the marriage came a powerful change. The families who once fought over Kiano's lineage laid down their grudges. Warriors who had drawn weapons in anger now drummed in celebration. The merchants, who had once scoffed at Jabari's simple offering, now offered gifts in his honor. Teferi, the defeated warrior, watched from the shadows. He had lost his challenge, lost the chance to claim a throne through force. Yet as he watched Jabari hold Zuwina close, as he saw Kiano's bright eyes looking up at his father, he knew. He had never truly been in the running. The gods had chosen wisely. And so, the village, once fractured, stood together as one. The rise of Kiano. The years passed swiftly, like the flowing river after the rain. Under the guidance of his parents, Kiano grew into a boy of remarkable wisdom. While others were trained in battle, Kiano was taught the lessons of patience and justice. While others sought power, he learned humility. From Jabari, he inherited compassion, the ability to lead not with fear, but with understanding. From Zuwina, he inherited vision, the strength to see beyond the present and shape a better future. And from the trials of his birth, he inherited destiny. By the time Kiano reached manhood, the prophecy had already begun to unfold. A king unlike any other. When the time came for Kiano to ascend as the village's leader, he did not take the throne in the usual way. He did not demand loyalty. He earned it. His first act as leader was not to expand their borders, but to mend old wounds. He welcomed rivals into his court, built alliances where there had once been division, and created a system where all voices could be heard, not just those of the strongest. He forged peace where others had sought war. He brought prosperity without hoarding wealth. And in time, the village flourished beyond what anyone had imagined. The prophecy had been fulfilled, but not as anyone had expected. The greatest ruler their people had ever known was not made by strength or riches. He was shaped by love. The legend passed through generations. Long after Keanu's reign, the story of his birth, the tale of Zuwina, Jabari, and the prophecy became legend. Elders told it to wide-eyed children beneath the baobab tree, their voices weaving the tale through the generations. Strength alone does not make a leader, they would say. Nor does wealth, nor power. The greatest rulers are those who love deeply, who endure trials, and who stand for their people before themselves. And so, long after Zuwina and Jabari had passed, long after Keanu's rule had become history, their love, their trials, and their triumph lived on. For love, in the end, had been the greatest prophecy of all. The end.